last October, I had my T levels checked, completely natural, no supplementation, no anything, working out less than I was back then. My testosterone levels have gone up to like 750. So they tripled naturally.
Friends, welcome to the Decentralised Health Podcast and to episode number 8. Today's guest is Jeff Gibson. Jeff has worked in healthcare, IT systems architecture for the past 15 years and unknowingly lived with circadian rhythm disruption. After Jeff started improving his light environment a few years ago, he started feeling like a completely different person, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Since then, he's been studying circadian and quantum biology and has been on a mission to convince as many humans as possible to implement these simple strategies in their lives so they can also experience greater health, happiness, and purpose in the same way he and millions of others on the planet have figured out. In 2024, Jeff partnered up with his friends from the United Kingdom to create the CRD Challenge, a free circadian education community for anyone who wants to learn the basics of circadian and quantum biology. This 3-week-long, bite-sized educational program empowers people to learn the most important aspects of circadian health and easy practices to implement in their life, which will improve their longevity, health span, and lifespan. Friends, welcome to the Decentralised Health Podcast and to Jeff Gibson. Jeff, brother, welcome to the Decentralised Health Podcast. It has been a very long time. It's so good to see your face.
Good to see you again, buddy. Yeah, it's been since our El Salvador trip where we know each other really well. What a great trip, man. Yeah, it's good to see you again.
Such a beautiful experience, brother. And obviously it meant that I got to meet you, which is an incredible blessing. So welcome to the podcast. And for everybody that's listening, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jeff. I met him at Solar Culture in El Salvador, November last year. Beautiful soul. And today we're going to be discussing his hero's health journey from the centralized to decentralized. So Jeff, please introduce yourself to the watchers and the listeners.
Yeah, so my name's Jeff Gibson. I have worked in healthcare for the past, I think, 17 years now. I'm not a clinician. I'm not I don't have any clinical acumen to speak of, but I have worked in software and building it out and working with doctors and nurses to make sure the software works for them. So I'm intricately aware of how the system works. And, I've recently become more acutely aware of how broken our system is that I'm a part of. And what I mean by that is, for the past 17 years plus of my life working in tech, I have been living with chronic circadian rhythm disruption, and I had no idea, So what I mean by that is I've been staying up on my computers up until a couple years ago, and we'll get to that. But I would always stay up till, midnight at least on my sea of like 6 monitors here at my desk. At full factory settings, I just thought it was cool to have them all on, even if I wasn't using them all. I had no idea that, I was suppressing my melatonin and all these things. So basically, I was always living with a decent amount of inflammation where, like, unless I went to the gym, 5+ days a week, I got a lot of cardio in, I would always be carrying a little bit of extra weight. Right, I had to work really hard to kind of keep that off. And then a couple years ago, a buddy of mine that I play tennis with recommended that Tetragrammaton podcast with Dr. Jack Kruse and Andrew Huberman, and I'd never heard of Jack Kruse before, right? And so I said, "Oh yeah, I'll give this a listen. I like Andrew Huberman. He whatever." So I gave it a shot. And when I listened to that, Mark, it was like, I don't know how to describe it. When you hear something that just explains everything, it just hits you like a fountain of truth, so to speak. It just washed over me. And I'm like, holy crap, this explains a lot. And what I mean by that, for the people that haven't listened to that podcast or don't have 6.5 hours to spare to listen to it,
Yeah, it's a long one.
It's basically explained something that I'd never heard before, which is that the increase in prevalence of blue light from our devices, which never existed before in human history, is the leading cause of most of the chronic health conditions that we're seeing on this planet today. The rise in obesity and diabetes and Alzheimer's and heart disease and so many other things. And it's like Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the right one, as opposed to the alternative is what most of the centralized doctors today think. Oh, I don't know, maybe it's genetic. Like nobody knows, nobody cares. They're just trying to mask it with pills. But anyway, after I heard that podcast, I asked my buddy who recommended this podcast to me. I'm like, what is this about? Because they didn't tell me the XYZ. Like, how do I get my circadian rhythm in order? I'm not just going to not use my screens after sunset ever. He's like, no. He showed me how you can turn the screen red. You can wear blue blockers. He showed me which kind to get. He said, start your day by, instead of just rolling out of bed and looking at your phone, go outside and sit for 15 minutes. And so I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. For the next 30 days, I committed to myself, I'm just going to give this a shot. Because after all, my buddy told me he started living this circadian lifestyle 6 years ago. And he said his anxiety, that he didn't even realize he had anxiety, started going away. He said he started losing weight without working out and all these things. And I like brushed it aside. I'm like, there's no way. Like just
That's too easy.
It's too easy. That's not how health works. It's supposed to be really hard. You're supposed to have to go to the gym 6 days a week to lose weight and count calories. But I figured, hey, maybe he's not full of it. Maybe I'll just give it a shot. So I told myself I'm going to do this for 30 days. And so I did it. Day one, I'm waking up at sunrise, approximately, getting outside and just sitting for 15 minutes. And by the end of that first week, I was sitting outside for like an hour and a half because the sun was coming up earlier. Like I wanted more of it. I felt so good. And then by blocking blue light at night, like I would start putting on my blue blockers. He said 2 hours before bed. So I'm like, oh, well, I go to bed at midnight. So night one, I was wearing my blue blockers at 10 p.m. and I'd be wanting to fall asleep by 11. And so the next night, by the end of like the first 2 weeks, I was going to bed at 9:30 p.m. for the first time, but never gone to sleep before 10 p.m. in years. And so all that to say, by the end of the 30 days, I literally started feeling like a whole new person. Like I became more, I don't know, like self-aware almost of all the little intricacies of my daily life. It's like I became more in tune with nature. I started feeling like a human again. Like weight started falling off naturally. Like every time I would step on the scale, it would just go down. I realized, oh, I've been working out less, but the weight is coming off. Like that's never been like this. Similar to my friend, I also like didn't realize I wouldn't. If you had asked me 3 years ago, Mark, do you have anxiety? I'd be like, no. I mean, I'm just a normal like 40-year-old guy. Like this is how you're supposed to feel, right? In your 40s. And I had no idea. Like I just feel so much more natural and at ease now throughout the day. And ever since that first 30 days, that first 30-day challenge that I kind of did for myself, I said, I'm never going back. I'm never going back to just like staring at full factory screens, full brightness. If I'm watching TV, I'm always wearing blue blockers, and I'm just so thankful that I found this way of life. And I've been on a mission ever since that to try to convince people to start living this way. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's so hard, isn't it? Like you've tried this before. Like people don't want to change anything about their lifestyle, especially if it's what those silly orange glasses Mark's wearing. I'm not going to wear those. Like it's just anything that's new or different. People can't really, they don't want to incorporate any new lifestyle changes. They want to live in complete disregard to the laws of nature, the way that they've always been doing. And if anything goes wrong, they'd rather just swallow a pill every day for the rest of their life. That's kind of like how we've been programmed. It's not what they want. It's just the way that they think life works. But so anyway, I've been on a mission to try to convince people of that. I try to convince my family and friends, and, nobody listens. And, I started getting to be friends with a lot of the influencers, the circadian health influencers, and some doctors in this space. And, kind of bouncing ideas off them for what to do, to how we can all come together and kind of convince people somehow, like some type of grassroots movement. And one night I was laying in bed and I couldn't stop thinking about this, like, mission. I got to do something. And then the idea came to me, Mark, like I don't know, like a bolt of lightning, like just an aha moment. Like there's got to be some type of, like, the CRD challenge, the idea for circadian rhythm disruption, like some kind of challenge similar to like the ALS ice bucket challenge back in the day.
Yeah. Oh God, I remember that.
Yeah, except, instead of just dumping a bucket of ice on your head, you actually have to commit to 3 weeks of living a circadian friendly lifestyle. And, we ended up making that happen. And after I pitched the idea to my friend, Daniel White and Avi and Lauren Jacobson, they've all had their kind of lives transformed in the same way that I have, just from living a circadian friendly life. And we all put our heads together and we worked and put this thing together. And we've had, I think, 3,200 people signed up since October when this launched worldwide from so many countries across the globe. And it's really been a cool thing to see. People pop into our community and they ask questions about, how long they got to be out during sunset for, and, which type of blue blockers to get versus which type of lights to get during the nighttime to use versus during the day. There's so many questions that come along with this that people will want answers to without having to read hundreds of scientific papers. And so we try to make it just a free, easy place to not only learn about circadian biology, but to have that community aspect to where it's like, you're not doing this alone. You're not the solo person in your community wearing these red lens glasses. At least you might be the only one in your home and you might get some strange looks for it at first, but at least you'll know you're part of a worldwide community of, thousands and thousands of other people who have, started living life this way. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. It's been a pretty cool experience, and yeah, we're happy to have so many people in the community. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's amazing, brother. And I am part, just for everybody listening, I am part of the CRD challenge as well. I do express this to my clients and to my friends and family to join this movement because, again, it's a 3-week challenge, which, it's 3 weeks. That's all it is. The information's there. It's in the community. The questions that you're probably asking are probably already asked, so you can go and find the answers. And as you say, there's people there in that community feel, which is whenever, and again, like working directly with clients, whenever they're doing something, the first question that I always ask them before I work with them is, do you have a support network that can help you with this? Because there will be moments when it's going to be difficult, because everything's easy when there's motivation. Everything's easy when it's easy. It's when it's hard that's when those old thought patterns come in, where you're like, oh, I won't do it for today. I won't get up at sunrise today. It won't matter. Or I won't put my blue light blocking glasses on today. It won't matter. And then you do it another day, and then another day, and before you know it, you've fallen off and you're not doing it anymore. So having that support structure is critical for these things to work. And so with what you guys have built, where you have built a circadian community where there will be people that are having bad days. There will be people that are having challenges, or, they're not getting the support from their family, but yet they can come into this community and they can say, guys, I'm struggling. Like my husband isn't on board with it. He keeps turning all the lights on, and what am I supposed to do? And then obviously you guys can come in and say, right, so what we can do is we can start changing the light bulbs, this, that, and the other. So that then leads me to that next question. So how, outside of the getting up with sunrise and the blue light blocking glasses, turning your laptop screen red, so the software that I use is one called Iris. I'm probably sure you're using the same one. That's an incredibly cost-effective thing to do. It's like for me, I think I'm still on that $1 a month subscription that they do. So it's a very, very cheap thing to do. How do you make your home circadian friendly?
Yeah, so just building off what you said with Iris, there's also an alternative free software, completely free, where you can save the massive $1 a month subscription that Mark's paying and you just get it for $0 a month, is FLux. So that's another good one. You can turn it down to like 1200K amber looking range at night where it's red, and it's completely free and it's great. We recommend that to everybody in our community too. So there's a lot of free aspects out there. And then, to answer your question, how do we make our homes circadian friendly? A lot of people kind of overthink this. Like it's such a complicated thing. It's not. It's really so simple. Like if you think back to, let's just take a zoom out here. So like the 30,000 foot view of humanity in our history. Modern humans have only been around, 300,000 years or so. And we never, ever had any blue light in our environment after sunset until about 125 years ago, when people started electrifying the world and getting these incandescent bulbs. And even at that time, incandescents didn't have much more blue energy output than firelight did. Really, they're a little bit brighter, so there was more intensity of it, but really it's the same. If you look at them on a spectrometer, it's the same like straight line heat signature of just heat, because it's burning a tungsten filament versus burning fire. So anyway, long story short, for the high level of humanity, like we didn't start seeing all these rises in chronic health conditions of humans until probably just the last 40 years or so, right? And that's right along the time when we started getting these LED bulbs in our house, these compact fluorescents, things like this. So basically, for our home environment, all we really need to do is get back to the incandescent in our home in the evening, like just have a single incandescent bulb on in each room to light up your environment. Like it's almost like we've gotten too used to, many people in my family included, when I go back for Christmas, it's rough staying with family because they're just used to having every single light on in the house. Like you buy a house and it's got 15 different canned lights at the top. They must be there for a reason. I'll turn them all on and all full brightness. Like we've gotten used to wanting to see everything. Like, I don't know, as if we need to see if there's a speck of dust on the floor at 11 p.m. at night. Like, long story short, we just need to get back to how we lived, not in prehistoric times, not before electric light. We don't need to be living with candlelight or doing anything fancy. In my opinion, incandescent bulbs are safe enough.
Yeah,
that would, if everybody in the world used incandescent bulbs just in the evening, you could have your bright LEDs on at night. That's a whole nother kind of nuanced topic for daytime light, but incandescent bulb in each room at night and a lamp, and have your screens be red. If everybody did that, oh my God, I would go and leverage every single dollar that I could possibly have, and I would short the pharmaceutical industry. If I knew that everybody in the world was going to start doing that, it would take time for those health implications to take hold, and people would start getting healthier. But it would be the pharmaceutical industry's worst nightmare if everybody started doing those two simple things. Or imagine if Apple pushed out an update to where by default everybody's iPhone turned red right at sunset automatically, like not just night shift mode, but or even night shift mode, whatever. If there was some type of thing like that, it would be massive. So other than that, we're talking about light and circadian rhythms. That's the most important things. Just dim your lights after sunset. Turn your screens red if you're on a device. Otherwise, if you can't make your TV red, which a lot of them don't have that option, then you wear the red or orange lens, blue blocking glasses. And while you're watching that device, like I never wear my blue blockers in my house, except if I'm wearing TV, because there's no blue light to block. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's as simple as that for getting your circadian rhythm in order. And then if you want to take it to the next level, light from a scientific perspective, according to NASA, is any wavelength of the electromagnetic spectrum, whether it's visible light, which we call light, or if it's infrared light, or if it's X-rays, or if it's wireless radiation. So one of the things that has been a big needle mover for me is I put my Wi-Fi I put a little timer. I plug my Wi-Fi router into a little timer that goes into the wall. And so anytime it gets to 10:30 p.m. at night, it automatically shuts off my Wi-Fi because I'm not up at that time anyway. Like, unless you have security cameras or a baby monitor or anything like that, you don't need your Wi-Fi on at night. And there's been tons of studies that show that, it's mostly safe, but like if we can mitigate our exposure to that, it allows us, especially when we're sleeping, to kind of aid in the process of apoptosis and autophagy in our body, so we can actually repair cancerous cells and things like this. And so I've noticed that since I started doing that, I started sleeping even more deeply than I was already noticing a big shift in, just from the circadian rhythm stuff. But that's a big thing. And if you want to get really nuts about it, I also have, I keep my electrical panel off that just goes to my room, because I don't use the overhead lights in there. Like during the day I can see because I got windows, and at night I have a little battery powered lamp if I need to see. So I have no electromagnetic radiation from the electricity in the walls either. So, and again, that's like the extra final mile. Like people, that's kind of woo woo for most people. Like if anybody wants to have the biggest needle moving thing, like, you don't have to be a health nut. You don't have to do a bunch of crazy stuff. It's just like, get outside each morning that you can. Sometimes it's not feasible to get outside for sunrise. Let's be real. It's not like you have to make this commitment to live a perfect life all the time. And then at night after sunset, just block that blue light. It's such a huge needle mover that, everybody should be doing this. And I think, Mark, you'll agree, like, this is the truth. Yep. It's not just our subjective experience that we've noticed. There's thousands of studies on this, and for some reason it just hasn't made it mainstream. Now we can get into that topic, like, why is this not mainstream yet?
We will.
Yeah, but that's pretty much all anybody needs to do. Just incandescence and block blue light at night. Just it's the nighttime environment that's causing people the most inflammation and chronic disease and all these things.
Yeah, definitely, because it's light disruption. That's what we're trying to sort here. As you say, like, the circadian rhythm disruption is light disruption. That's the key. And as you say, there are other stacks that you can put on top of that with the non-native EMF and Wi-Fi and all those other types of things. But the key thing to get everybody kind of moving in the right direction from a very easy perspective is to see the sunrise. And I say to people, see it with the sun. If the sun comes up at like 6:30, just see it within that hour window. You don't have to be dead on 6:30. It doesn't have to be like 5:45, 7:45. It can be within that hour window. Like, just get outside and see it, because it's setting things up in your body from a body clock perspective to start to do the things it's supposed to do. I mean, that's the big reason why we're saying this to people is we have a suprachiasmatic nucleus which runs all the clocks in our body. and it basically oscillates and vibrates these frequencies of light to other parts of our body where there are clocks, and it tells them what to do. And one of those things being obviously the elevation of cortisol, and then the blunting of cortisol, and then the production of, or the transfer of aromatic amino acids into steroidal hormones and other types of stuff like that. So if you're not getting those signals in the morning, you don't get those things. And obviously one of the biggest things that we see at the moment is a massive hormonal dysregulation across the whole world. You know, you've got women who can't get pregnant and they're going into early menopause. You've got guys in their 20s who have got testosterone levels the same as what their granddad in his 90s got. Like it's quite a, I don't want to use the word pandemic, but it's quite a big thing. You can fix that just by going and exposing your eyes and your skin to the sunrise. Face east, as Jack Kruse says, make like the Sphinx. Face east, as much skin as possible, depending on temperature, and expose yourself to that sun, and ground. That's the one thing we haven't mentioned there, is obviously to ground as well. And that, again, is just to let your body get the electrons from the earth so that the body can start functioning properly, because the whole body runs off electrons and protons. So when we think about that, only 33% of electrons are coming from food. The rest of it is light, water, and magnetism. And they're all very, very deep topics. But when it
Can
comes
I build on that for 1 second?
Yeah, please do. Riff away.
So that's a huge piece. Like there's male fertility has dropped by 50% in terms of sperm count since the 1950s or 60s. And there was a study that came out a few years ago on that. And it's one of those things that people just kind of shrugged off, like, oh, that they must have measured wrong back then, or since they have no explanation and it seems so dire and weird, people just kind of shrug it off. But it's true. Female fertility is dropping, male fertility is dropping. And the reason for that is because we as humans are living in the most unnatural way. We built ourselves our own zoo that we are living in outside of our natural environment. We were meant to be outside. We were meant to rest and repair at night. And when we are living in blue light, which tells us that it's midday, when we're living in that right up until the time we go to sleep, that's causing us hormonal issues. So in terms of hormonal issues, building on what you said, I will share that, you know, like 5 years ago when we were trying to have a baby, I got tested. I had my testosterone levels tested just in case, because it's covered by insurance here. And it was on the low end. It was like 250 or something for a 40-year-old, 39-year-old man at the time. And you know, I wasn't too happy with that. And whatever, everything still worked out. But I didn't want to do TRT or anything like that, or do anything unnatural. And what do you know, like a couple years later, I started figuring out the circadian rhythm stuff and getting outside in the sun more and living a circadian friendly lifestyle. And, you know, last October, I had my T levels checked, completely natural, no supplementation, no anything, working out less than I was back then. My testosterone levels have gone up to like 750. So they tripled naturally. And I just also want to let people know that's not an anecdotal story. My friend Jack Schroeder, he's a male fitness health coach. You know Jack. He before he deals with before he starts working with any man, he has them do baseline levels of everything, including their testosterone. And he said out of the hundreds of men that he's worked with, not a single one of them hasn't had huge increases in their testosterone levels naturally, just by doing the circadian friendly lifestyle and getting safe, moderate amounts of sun exposure without, you know, burning your skin. All this stuff is a big contributing factor. Like, start thinking of it this way, people. We are photosynthetic, just like plants. You know, we take food that we eat, like cholesterol, for instance. If you eat eggs in the morning and then you go outside and expose your eyes and skin to just natural sunlight, your body's going to create hormones from that light, or if we photosynthesize it. So eat your steak, eat your eggs, and get outside and get your skin in the game. And you won't need TRT. You won't need any answers from the pharmaceutical industry, because we are not broken as a species. Our environment is broken.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
You can't get healthy in the same environment that makes you sick, right?
Yeah.
So you have to make those changes. And obviously there are people out there, you know, as much as we all love Dr. Jack Kruse, he would be the first proponent to say, well, just move.
Yeah. It's not
move closer to the equator, you know, be where we're supposed to be. Yeah, I get that. But, you know, family, jobs, all those other types of things, that's not possible for all people. And also maybe financially it's not possible for all people. So this is where we come in and be like, right, so what can we do to safely optimize the environment that we are in and change it enough to make it optimal, to make it circadian friendly, to make it quantumly friendly, so that we can get the best out of where we are. And then eventually, when there is an opportunity to potentially move maybe more rural, less urban, well, then we can start looking at those types of things. Because I don't think that it necessarily means you have to move closer to the equator.
Right.
We just need to become more rural again. We need to be thinking about how we lived in the agricultural era, but more modern. How do we modernize that? And that would be, again, more urban lifestyle, natural homes, natural light, natural waters, grounding more, seasonal, organic, unprocessed local foods, and community. That's as easy as it has to be. We you know, when I interviewed Thomas on my podcast, he said that we overcomplicate something which is just incredibly so simple.
Mm-hmm.
Because we expect it to be harder than what it is. And it's not harder than what it is. It's an incredibly simple thing to do. And again, like, people they balk at something which is for free. They expect it's going to be a costly thing. And okay, incandescent bulbs, all those types of things. Yeah, okay, they're going to cost you, but they're not going to cost you any more than an LED bulb does. And everyone's like, oh, you know, but they're more expensive to run. Are they though? How long have we been running LEDs? And yet the price of everything when it comes to electricity is higher than it's ever been. It's not saving energy. It's not costing less. It's the same, if not more expensive. So get yourself some relatively cheap, like maybe $2 incandescent bulbs. They're not that expensive. They last a long time. They give off heat as well. So in the winter, it's nice because they're warm.
Mm-hmm.
That's more energy efficient in my regard. So I agree with Jack as well. Like, with all the clients that I see male wise, there's not one single male. Actually, there's one male who came in with very high T, and he was 72. So he was the only one that had very high testosterone. But every male that I work with that's 40s, 30s, 20s has, particularly 20s, have chronically low T, like chronically low. And then when you start implementing these, because for the first 4 weeks that I work with them, I'm like, this is all we're doing. We're adjusting your lifestyle. You're doing the quantum stuff, the circadian stuff. Just do that. And you know, some of these guys are like doing shots of espresso at like 9 o'clock at night just to stay awake and all those other types of things. And they come back to me within a week. They're like, I haven't had a coffee for a week. Yeah, funny that how you're feeling more energized. I'm not tired. Yeah, that's because you don't need stims. You're naturally awake. You're naturally alive because you're getting the photonic light. You're getting the magnetism. You're getting the things that your body actually needs to function.
Nature's prescription, God's prescription, whatever you want to call it, it's far greater than any supplement or any pharmaceutical product that they've come out with. Like, I think if we as a society, Mark, had figured out all of this circadian biology stuff earlier, like maybe in the early 1900s, like 1905 or something, before Rockefeller took over, before the pharmaceutical industry started taking hold. Like, if we had started figuring this out back at that time, when they already had, like, most hospitals would wheel their patients outside to get sunlight because they knew that sunlight heals. Yes, and if we started learning about circadian biology then, and you know, started I don't know, it would have just been more welcomed, I think. But now, because we've been living in this particular way as a society where we think the laws of nature don't apply to us, and we think that light's just a flick of the switch on the wall. It has no effect on our physiology. We can't fathom that something as innocuous as an iPhone screen could be causing us health concerns. It's when I first started hearing this, it just seems absurd, right? And I think that's why most people find it hard to even consider or fathom doing anything different about. Like, I'm not going to be scared of my phone. I've been living. I'm just gonna. That's dumb. I'll take my chances. You know what I mean? They don't believe it, but I think it would have been more accepted back in the day. You know, and let's maybe get into that. Like, what is wrong with the state of the world today? You know what I mean? Like, how did we get to this broken place where, in order for doctors to call themselves medical doctors or doctors of medicine, they are basically trained by the pharmaceutical industry, essentially. You know, if you go back and look at the control that Rockefeller started putting in place back in 1910 with the Flexner Report, it basically was a power grab to where I don't want doctors giving out homeopathic remedies, even if they work. We're just going to say that that's all bunk stuff that doesn't count anymore. Like, the only thing that counts is pharmaceutical pills that are patented that we can make money off of, or surgeries. And basically he started taking control of the schooling system to where none of these old, energy healing or homeopathic remedies are able to be taught. And if you have a homeopathic remedy, you can't tell someone that it's a treatment for their X, Y, and Z. You just have to, you have to be very careful. So like the laws and the whole medical establishment all across the globe has been, it sounds conspiratorial, but it's been taken over. And it sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, but it comes down to as simple as this. The companies which make money off of humans being sick, maybe, just maybe, they don't want us to become healthier so that they make less money. It's that simple. And they have their hands and they're lobbying dollars in about every aspect of our society. Like, what do you think that pharmaceutical industries are using their lobbying dollars for? To make us healthier so that they make less money? Or do you think they're lobbying governments across the world to push for bans of incandescents and things like this, surreptitiously, because they know that these LEDs are just harmful enough for humans to be great for them, but not so harmful that it just makes us all die like this, because that would be bad for business too. Right? So it's like they know exactly what they're doing. And one of the things that you will find, people out there, if you haven't started living the circadian friendly lifestyle, is once you do, you become more aware of these kind of obvious truths that are out in front of our face. Like, if you had started telling me any of this circadian biology type of stuff, or, pharmaceutical industry corruption, I would just kind of shrug it off and I'd go about my way when I was circadian disrupted. I couldn't really process that. But now it's almost like you become more aware of yourself and of your environment, and you have an intuition that you can tap into that kind of just when something's true. You're much more apt to know when something's true if you are living in alignment with nature, for the most part, right? And so
I think, to add to that, there's a reason why there's such a strong buy-in as well. So one of the other things that chronic exposure to blue light does is it lowers dopamine. And dopamine is very important for critical thinking. So it makes you docile and it makes you easily led. So the less blue light you get, the more natural light you get, all of a sudden your brain starts changing and you start thinking differently, and you start seeing things where you didn't see them before. The dots start to join in a way that they didn't seem before. And, okay, it could sound conspiratorial in the things that we're saying, but, we could just use this as an example because it's only just come out in the UK. I've been talking and saying to clients and friends and family and on my socials about chemtrails and stuff like that for a very long time. And obviously the UK's become aware that there's a lot of people out there pushing that these things are there, and videos are coming out and seeing it all and the rest of it. And now they've come out going, oh, we've just invested £50 million to dim the sun. And that's going to be passed in a week's time. Okay. So that's no longer a conspiracy anymore, then, is it? Because you've flatly come out and said, yeah, we're doing that, but we're going to pretend that we've just started it. You haven't just started. You've been doing it for since the 50s.
Yeah.
You know, it's a real thing. You can't ignore it anymore. And the things that we are saying now about how there was the oppression of natural alternative medicine, which back then was just called medicine. It wasn't called alternative, because there was a reason to profit from it, because there is no profit in cure. That's what they realized. And when you get somebody in that siloed system of the centralized medical system, it's very, very hard to get out, because you've got a compound which does one thing, not necessarily in a good way either, but it only does one thing, but has these multitudinal compoundal side effects, which means you've now got to take another drug to knock that side effect out and another drug to stop that side effect. Well, when you look at natural alternatives, they have multitudes of effects and a very, very small amount of side effects, if any at all, if taken properly and done through the advice of somebody that knows what they're doing. So yes, you could think of it as a conspiracy, but if you really do look at like the Fletcher report and you go back to that and you read into it, well, how do you think Rockefeller made all his money? Like, why do you think he made all that money? Incentives dictate outcomes. Right. So again, no profit in cure, incentive dictates outcomes. Why would somebody want to do that? Well, because it makes him and all of the other people that are involved in his scheme money. And it makes them a lot of money, because they had all of these petroleum-based things that they need to do something with. There's like a runoff of it. They couldn't just dispose of it all, so they started making compounds and chemicals out of it. Now, that's not to say, and I want to stress this, we're not blaming doctors, because they're in the system. They have to do these things, because if they don't do these things in that way, then they can have their license taken away.
Yeah.
You know, they're not allowed to say, oh yeah, go and take this herb, because it's not part of the remit. They're not allowed. And I understand that. They've spent however many years learning what they've learned to get the certifications and qualifications to be able to do what they want to do. And genuinely, they want to help people. But it's because they've been blinkered into this particular way of thinking that it is only this way. Right. That even if they do start seeing it an alternative way, unless they're willing to risk their license, they can't do anything about it. And, you know, if you have a car accident and you need to have surgery, yeah, don't go to a herbologist for that. Go to a surgeon, right? There's the right things at the right times. So I just want to stress that we're not in any way, shape or form saying that they're doing anything particularly wrong in that regard. It's just that they're in a system that they are stuck in and they can't do anything about that. But that's why we are the proponents of what we're doing here, right, and the way that I coach my clients functionally and quantumly, because I want to gift them, and you want to gift the people that you work with, the ability to become the CEOs of their own health. How can you start taking the control back so that you don't need to go there at all or as much as what you were previously? And that is the goal. So you're not reliant, because that is their system, reliancy on them perpetually for the rest of your life. I mean, just think about people that you know that are on medication. How long have they been on that medication for? And is there looking like there's going to be an out for them at any given point?
No, that's the whole goal. You get how many times have you ever met someone that went on antidepressants and then a month later they're like, hey, they worked. I don't need these anymore. No, that's not how they work. If they developed an antidepressant drug that did that, guess what? They never fucking release it. That's how the system works. They don't release drugs that actually cure anything. They would bury it. They'd buy the patent and they would shelve it, just like they did in 1996 at Rockefeller University with the leptin trial. Leptin, So like, this system is broken, and it's not your doctors. Like, that would be a hard conspiracy theory to believe if the doctors were in on it, to your point. Yeah. Doctors are not all in on this. They are just basically brainwashed like everyone else. And they are naive enough to believe that the American Medical Association and the CDC and the WHO, they will tell them when this circadian rhythm stuff is important enough that they need to tell their patients. It's like the problem with our system and with our doctors is the whole establishment is set up to where if you're a doctor, I could go look at some of the doctors' clinic schedules or their surgical schedules for today. It's every 15 minutes. You got another patient,
Wow.
another patient, another. You barely have time to finish your charting. Like doctors are logging on at home in the evening to finish their charting on their 20, 30 cases from the day. They don't have time to go and study PubMed to learn all this new stuff about circadian biology. They are just basically operating in a system where they're kind of relying on the establishment to tell them when there's something big and new that they need to worry about, like with COVID.
Yep.
Okay, what do we need to do? We need to test every patient. There's bylaws and there's guidelines that come out to where that basically tell them how to think and act. And there are certain doctors that have broken free of that and started realizing, oh, wait, to your point, doctors do want to help people. They do. So like Kelsey Dexter and like Thomas Cabell and so many other doctors, thousands of them all across the globe are starting to figure out, well, I'm part of a broken system. And let's think about what that means. Like, let's say you're a doctor practicing, Mark, in a hospital. And you start let's say you start transforming your life through circadian biology. If you started showing up to the hospital wearing red lens glasses on your night shift, or like requesting to work a day shift and wearing the yellow lens glasses, imagine the scares that would bring to your patients. Like, why are you, if they asked you honestly, why are you wearing those red lens glasses? Is the blue light bad or something? You would have to lie to them. You would have to say, no, you would have to brush it under the rug, because otherwise you're the canary in the coal mine. You would be the one saying, yeah, these fluorescent lights that we turn on every 2 hours to come in for our nightly Q2H assessments, guess what? Those are disrupting your circadian rhythm and they're making you sicker. But I'm blocking that light, but we don't give you these glasses. Like, imagine that. Like, you would be admitting not only that you're failing your patients by not telling them to get proper light whenever they leave the hospital, but you're also making them sicker by subjecting them to a circadian misaligned life while they're in the hospital. The place that they're meant to heal is the most unhealthy environment. Like, how messed up is that? It's almost easier as a doctor, if you were to become aware of this, just to keep your head down, shut up. You don't want to disrupt. You don't want to be the one person in the hospital saying some crazy outlandish thing like the system is broken. Everybody in here could be much healthier if we change the lights. And it's almost like it's easier just to shut up and be part of the cattle herd and just stay quiet. And if it becomes an issue, maybe I don't know, just rely on somebody else to be the person that pipes up, because it's easier just to stay in line, right? So that's the problem. Yeah.
We saw that with COVID as well, didn't we? Any doctor that spoke up and came out and said about it and tested it and spoke against it or questioned it, even to that degree, like, this doesn't make sense. Yeah. They just got shut down instantly.
The system teaches people to shut up, stay in line. You will be canceled if you speak out against what the establishment is saying. Don't use your intuition. Don't use your logic. Just use it. It's almost like there's this fear mongering going on. Like, I don't think we see that as much with circadian biology stuff, but it's built into our society. Like, it would be such a hard thing. And then another aspect of this is, in order for a doctor to start recommending, blue blockers and morning light and all this stuff to their patients, they would have to study for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. And to the point that I mentioned earlier, they barely have time to finish their charting and their patients, let alone have family time and sports events for their kids and all this stuff. They don't have time. So what are they going to do if their patient starts asking them, what type of light bulb should I use during the day versus at night versus? They don't have time. They literally don't have time in their 15-minute appointment to explain all the questions that people have. And so one of the cool things that's that's cool to see is Dr. Cabell. He knows that he doesn't have time to explain all this stuff for patients, but he wants all of his patients to start getting their circadian rhythm in order because he's a cardiologist, and a lot of these heart problems can be greatly mitigated that their patients are seeing just by getting their circadian rhythm in order. So you know what he does? He writes them a script to go to the CRD challenge and sign up, and they come there and they start, doing. They get the tip of the iceberg information on circadian biology. So that's really cool to see, because that's one of the biggest drawbacks is that, doctors it's easier to just not recommend these things because they realize all the follow-up questions. But what if there was a free place that they could, tell people to go and learn about this? So
exactly.
Yeah. So
I think what's good about the CRD challenge as an example here is, imagine all the diseases that are commonplace now. Diabetes as an example, cardiovascular disease, and even, and speaking from somebody, well, I'm very careful how I word this. My body expressed autoimmune condition at some point. And obviously, as you know, I healed it. We had this conversation while we were in El Salvador. So imagine, I can speak freely about autoimmunity in this case. Imagine if diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hormonal problems, autoimmune diseases all got stopped or reduced by circadian living, using the CRD challenge as an example. Now, all the doctors have got way more time to actually handle cases that are a lot more severe, like an accident or open heart surgery or brain surgery or anything like that, because it allows them to have the time that they need with their patients. Like the NHS doctors here, they get 9 minutes per patient. When I get clients coming to me, my first call with them is 2 hours. And they've filled out forms before they've come to me, and I've gone through their forms. I've read their blood work. I've had private labs done before they come to me, and I'm sitting there with their lab report, telling them what I found, with their holistic health report, where they've answered questions about their emotional state, their mental state, what they eat, how they sleep, all these things, all based off things like the CRD. So that when I have this conversation, I can give them 2 hours of my time. Doctors can't do that. So if we can leverage things like the CRD challenge to massively reduce the workload on doctors, it stops becoming disease management and actually starts becoming healthcare again. And that's the most important thing, is taking that pressure off a system which is literally one straw on the camel's back away from completely breaking. Like the NHS in the UK is at a breaking point. You go there and you don't get a bed. Like my stepdad, he got sepsis. He was sat in a chair in the hallway. He's 75, 76, sat in a hallway with sepsis for 4.5 hours. They then take him to a room, put him in the bed. Somebody comes in and says, no, he can't be in here. We need this bed. Take him back out again, stick him in the hallway again. That went on for like 8.5 hours. At night, under blue light, because he wasn't deemed a critical case. Granted, but that's how bad the system is, that when you go somewhere like that, you don't even get the care that you need because they don't have the space nor the time, because there's too many people in there with other things that are more important. So everybody that's not deemed important gets put in a hallway. And you're just sat there for hours on end. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows that you're there. They might stumble upon you and go, oh, what are you doing here? Like, that's how bad it can be. So we need to leverage things like the CRD, because it will free up that time, not just in the States, not just in the NHS here in the UK, but globally. The whole medical system globally is broken. And all the things that we've mentioned, as an example, like the Jack Kruse Tetragrammaton podcast, I'll link that below, because I was on a lecture with Dr. Bruce Hoffman recently, and he's an incredibly clever guy, like unbelievable, understands quantum, functional, mitochondria, peptides, you name it. Like, he knows all of it, and he's going through everything, and he's on the circadian part of his talk, and he's like, the cleverest clinician at the moment in the whole world is Dr. Jack Kruse. And I was like, that's a fair point, actually, because he is. So anybody that's listening or watching, if you want to start with the easy stuff first, go to the CRD. Then when you want to start going really deep into the weeds and start having your mind blown open, you can then start looking at Dr. Jack Kruse. I wouldn't start with Jack Kruse because
No.
it's
Most
too much.
doctors that go and start reading Jack Kruse's stuff don't even understand. He's like the next level. He's a not only a brain surgeon, which is the smartest of all the doctors, but then he taught himself quantum physics too, which sadly physics entirely is left out of medical school curriculum. They don't acknowledge that electrons or protons or photons have any effect on our physiology outside of course, the electron transport chain. There's nothing taught about the benefits of grounding, things like this. So a full physicist and brain surgeon, like good luck understanding him. But to Mark's point, we got the tip of the iceberg at the CRD challenge, and beyond that, you can go swimming and get really deep if you want.
So within the CRD, you've mentioned that it covers the sunrise, the blocking of blue light, and the blue blocking glasses in the evening. What other things do people get to learn as part of that CRD? Do you cover anything like nutrition or like timing of food or anything like that?
Meal timing as well. We go over that, all the different Zeitgeibers or time cues that tell our body whether it's day or night and what processes it should follow. Like, all you got to basically know what that is. Like, eat like Jack Kruse says, eat breakfast like a king, eat lunch like a prince, and eat dinner like a peasant. It's just your biggest meal in the morning, and then increasingly smaller, and you want to go to bed with as little in your stomach as possible, and not have a stomach full of snacks and whatever else as you're going to sleep, because the less your body's doing, the less energy your body's expending in your stomach, the more it's expending, cleaning up bad cells and repairing and all the things that keep you, happy and healthy for longer. Try it out, guys. If you start living a circadian friendly lifestyle, you will live longer. You will be happier. You will have less anxiety. Like, that's, what would happen, Mark, if so this is a kind of expansive question. I'll put this one on you. What would happen if 50% of the globe tomorrow just started living a circadian friendly lifestyle? What do you think? What would happen to the system?
The system wouldn't break, that's for sure. The system's flexible to a point. So I think the system would first be in shock because there'd be a massive drop in people going to see GPs first. Then there'd be a massive drop of people going to the hospitals as well, outside of obviously heart attacks or brain injuries, all that type of stuff. But for general everyday stuff, there'd be less of all of that. So doctors would have more time, which means they could probably start learning more, studying more, PubMed, all the new stuff. But also, I think you'd find electricity costs would go down because people aren't going to be inside as much, because they're going to be very aware that they need to be outside more. You're going to get a massive reduction in supermarket buying because people are going to start going to regenerative and pasture-raised kind of facilities like farms that do all the biodynamic stuff. They're going to eat seasonal. They're going to eat organic. They're going to eat unprocessed. They're going to eat local, which means everything's coming from around them within like a 30, 40 mile radius. So supermarkets are going to suffer. I think you'll find that places like, I would imagine places like cinemas and stuff would start really going downhill because people aren't going to go into a dark room with a massively bright screen. Or if they did, they'd be there all covered up with their blue light blocking glasses on watching it.
Their turtleneck,
Exactly. I think there'd be a lot of changes going on. I really do. I think it would be a tremendous shift in awareness of how much power we actually have. And then when we do see things like the chemtrailing and stuff like that, would actually be in numbers saying, no, you have to remember, government, you work for the people, you don't rule the people. So stop doing that. We don't want you doing that anymore. And I think you would also find people would, as best as they could, leave built up urban areas. I think you'd probably find New York City would become less and less dense with people. London would be less dense with people. And you would find that these bodies of land, which haven't been lived on in however many hundreds of years, would all of a sudden start having communities again. People would start building bigger homes and ranches and having their own livestock and growing their own veg and their fruit and all that type of stuff. You'd have that more farmer style agricultural community again, but again, that more modern version. And we're not at any point saying don't use technology, don't use your phone and all those other types of things. It's just you can do it safely. So technology is here to stay. There's nothing we can do about that. And I'm actually pretty glad about it, because if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be talking right now for a start, which is obviously a massive benefit for everybody and us at the same time. So I think there would be huge shifts, and I'm probably forgetting many, many things. So what would you add to all of that? And what have I missed?
Well, I mean, here's, basically flash forward. This is what we're going to see. I don't know when, maybe in the next 5 years, that's pretty aggressive, maybe the next 10 years. But at some point, once it gets to a point where it's like we're less than 1% of the population that has figured out that that our environment's broken, not our health, and that in order to start living a circadian friendly lifestyle, probably less than 1% of the population on the planet Earth knows about this right now, or they've heard about it and they just are not doing anything about it yet. But once it reaches a critical mass of, like, say, 5%, 10% of people, and more doctors are speaking up about this, then we are basically largely kind of social creatures, or sheep, if you want to call it that. We do what our neighbors are doing. We do what our other colleagues are doing. So as more and more doctors are talking about this, more and more their colleagues will be convinced about it. And it will get to a critical mass of like 20, 30, 40, 50% in the next 20 years, probably.
Yep.
And by that time, we're also going to see a lot of picketing, people with picket signs outside of hospitals. Like, we have a right to healthy light, because we actually do. It's our, call me crazy, but maybe our facilities that we go to when we're sick in order to heal should actually be a healing environment. Call me crazy. Yeah. There's going to be some picketing. There's going to be lobbying of governments and municipalities to change the night lights from that harsh, harmful blue light in, like, New York City and big places like this, to more of the yellow or amber colored glasses. We're going to see massive shifts in that. We're going to see schools that use iPads, maybe using them a little bit less often, and or if they have school issued devices, they will have type of apps on there that will automatically shift the iPad or laptop or whatever to be read at sunset, to where you're not putting it in the hands of the kid to hopefully they remember to turn their screen red. It should be built in to every child's device. That's what's causing hormonal issues in our kids today. Largely is this just circadian rhythm disruption. That's the most unnatural way. So there's going to be a lot of social movements and activism that we are going to see on this planet. Like, we are going to be, I think we're entering what will be called historically the light revolution, Mark. Like, in terms of the historical impact of this, 100 years ago, or 100 years from now, history books will look back on this time of 1990, when we first started getting these LEDs and these compact fluorescent bulbs in our environment, until 2025, 2030, whatever that end year is. We're going to call this the light epidemic. When our cancer rates started going like this, when our diabetes, and you go look at the cases, the numbers over time of all these different diseases, anything from like the 1990s until now, and they all are trending up. And the answer to this is circadian rhythm disruption. And there's some implications and concerns for the EMFs that the wireless radiation that we're getting and stuff. But I feel that the biggest one is the circadian rhythm, the blue light from our screens at night. And once that becomes common knowledge, we're going to look back on this time that we're currently in right now and be like, how the hell did we not see this any sooner? It's ridiculous. Like, I don't know. It really baffles me how, like, more people don't know about this, smart doctors included. Like,
I agree.
Yeah.
To add
Yeah.
to that, just to interrupt you just quickly there, brother. To add to that, something that you mentioned, and it's only because I've got it right here, sat in front of me, and I'm not sure if you've got one at all, but just so everybody knows and understands, the technology to not have blue lit back computers has been around for a while, but it takes innovative people that are not afraid to push the envelope to create these things. So Apple, Google, Microsoft, Samsung, Sony, all the companies that create blue lit computers, TVs, and phones have had the ability to use non-blue light. So this is a daylight tablet.
Mm-hmm.
You know daylight very well. You know the guys that run it. This has got no blue light behind it whatsoever. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can get these devices. They do exist. Schools, teachers, if you are listening, this, if I can turn it on, is I don't think I've got any power left in it now. Yeah, it needs to be charged. But you can see just from that screen there, there's no blue light. None at all. You can get these now in your schools. You can swap them out for iPads. They're just the same pricing structure. And they do the same thing. Rather than it being off an Apple iOS software, it's off Android. These things are there. And that's the one thing, actually, which made me think about that when you were talking that I completely forgot, is we are in a innovative, entrepreneurial, first principles thinking revolution with people like Musk and stuff like that, and companies like Daylight. That's just one company. There will be more, because when they see the technology is there and it can be made, like, look at the companies that we were speaking about in El Salvador that are making different light bulbs, like the Chroma bulb and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Scott Zimmerman's bulb, like natural light coming from a bulb, almost as good as daylight coming from a bulb at the same price as a normal bulb. Madness. Right. But it's there, right? So I this is the start, as you say, like this is the start of that change. The world has had a quantum shift recently, and we are in the flux of all of that now, where people are starting to wake up. We are, as you say, like the 1% of the 1%, but the more people listen to stuff like this and the more people become aware, because that's the thing. You've got the known knowns, so the things you know. You've got the known unknowns, so the things you don't know. And then you've got the unknown unknowns. So everybody that was just listening that hadn't heard about daylight, that was an unknown unknown. You didn't know that was there, but it is. The people that didn't know about the CRD and what circadian rhythm disruption is, now you do.
There's so many unknown unknowns that our society is about to figure out once more and more people become aware of this. And once some of the billionaires on the planet, like Elon Musk and whoever else that actually has money to throw at big problems like this, once they start investing billions and billions of dollars, and once Wall Street and all these things start realizing that, oh, this is where the shift is headed, the pharmaceutical stocks are going to go down. Thank God. We're going to see that once this becomes all common knowledge. Innovation is going to be amazing. Like, the daylight screen is pretty cool. Imagine like once that kind of screen technology is on a full-fledged laptop. I've even seen, like, I'm really excited about certain types of light capturing devices that you can put on your roof, which channel and store the solar energy, and then blast it out through different lights. Like, that seems really freaking expensive. That maybe it'll start out with just like multimillionaires being able to put that in their house.
I saw one the other day.
Natural sunlight in your house.
Yes, that was it. The ones that have got those little holes in the ceiling where it's channeling sunlight into your house and distributing it as a light source. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
I saw that the other day.
That thing.
That was crazy. I'm like, how has this not been thought of sooner?
So many unknowns like that, like where we didn't even realize that, oh, that could be a thing. That's amazing. Like, we're going to see awesome innovation on this planet. We are going to see greater health outcomes for our loved ones. We're going to see drastic reductions in cancer rates. All these things once people become more aware of this circadian rhythm stuff. So I think it's one of the coolest times, Mark. If you can think back in the last 5,000 years on the planet Earth, is there any given 50-year, 100-year period in time in all of human history where more technological innovation has happened than what we're living?
No.
And the answer is no. Like, we are living in the most exciting time to be alive with the advent of the internet and cell phones and all these things. But that we're also on the verge of living through, as if that wasn't enough, the light revolution. And when all these things that we were just talking about are going to happen, like, Thank God. It's a magical time to be alive. It's easy to get caught up in focusing on the negative, like, God dang, the system's broken and all these people are asleep and they don't realize the reason they're being sick is because of the blue light and all this stuff. It's easy to get caught up in that aspect, but there is light at the end of this tunnel. And I'm trying to focus on that. Like, it's an amazing time to be alive. It's shitty sometimes to see what all the crap that's happening, but it's an amazing time to be alive. I'll say it again.
It is. Listen, what we aim at determines what we see, and we have to remember, in a 24-hour news world, we're seeing things that we would never have seen before. We've got to go back to before 24-hour news was available. We wouldn't know what was going on in other parts of the world. I wouldn't know what Susan in Toronto is doing because I'd have no access to her. And I would just say this just to add this to people as well, because it's not just the physicality of the CRD and quantum that's important. It's the mental side of it as well.
Yeah.
So number one, please stop watching the news. Stop it. You are watching something on a television, all right? Break that down. Television. And what you are watching is something called a program. It is programming you to see their vision. Media is all bought. Everything that they show you is exactly what they want to show you. They don't show you all the good stuff. They show you what they want you to see. Please stop watching it because it will make your brain feel better. Number two, when you do start the CRD challenge, because everybody that's watching this now cannot not go and join the CRD because it's free and you're going to learn all this cool stuff from my main brother, Jeff, right here, and others like him. When you spend that time outside first thing in the morning, just for 10, 15 minutes, stillness allows silence to speak. And the one thing that people do most now, and this is what Muji Mala says, is that people busy themselves so much because they're afraid to sit in their own stillness. Once you sit in your own stillness, as Rumi says, silence speaks. Give yourself that 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, breathe, relax, and just start to enjoy what is around you. A bird singing, the feel of the grass on your feet, that morning smell of the air, that stillness before cars are beeping and trucks are driving and planes are flying and kids are screaming, whatever the case may be for your life. Gift yourself that 10 to 15 minutes, because what it does, and me and Jeff had this conversation the other day, it's gratitude. You're like, I'm alive today. That's the biggest blessing. If you've woken up, you're better than all, we're not better. You are luckier than all the people that didn't, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. So by gifting yourself that 15 minutes in what will then be a very busy day is the greatest gift you can give yourself, particularly when you're there, grounded, with your partner or your kids, if they're there, or your dog or your cat or your chickens, whatever the case may be, or just on your own. You get that expansive moment to realize that you are part of something way, way, way bigger than what is going on in your world. And it just makes everything else seem a lot easier and all the problems slightly smaller. So please, everybody, join Jeff and his crew and me in the CRD challenge. I'm going to put all of that in the description below. I'm going to put all of Jeff's details as well, so you can reach out to him. Jeff, do you have any final thoughts or words you would like to say before we end this amazing podcast?
Yeah, I think I'll just say, we aren't separate from nature. We are nature. The laws of nature and the light dark cycles don't just apply to animals. Like, we as a society have gotten this kind of arrogance to believe that we as humans are special.
Yep.
We're special. We're different than monkeys. We're different than horses and cows and every other sea life and all these things. Yes, we are. We have consciousness. We have the ability to communicate verbally. We're special in a way, but we are nature. So just get out in nature and be in the environment that you're meant to live in more often. When we bring animals into captivity from their natural environment, they start losing their hair. They start having all these conditions. That's what's happening to us when we are living in our unnatural light environment. We stay indoors 95% of our time. Just be in nature more. To Mark's point, those 15 minutes in the morning, go out there without headphones on, just like listen to the birds. Like he said, you will start to feel just more at peace. Like, oh, the big picture starts to dawn on you that I'm just a human being on this planet. And it gives you a sense of your space and awareness of your place on this planet physically, as opposed to when we're on our screens, we just see what's wrong with the world. We see you could be making $1 million, but you're focused on oh, my buddy just is flying private. You know, there's all these things that are in our phone that are just telling us that other people are living better or that bad things are going on. So unplug more often. There's all kinds of screen time limiting devices. I started using one called Opal, which
that's
I think
what I
is
use.
great. Yeah. If I try to get on Instagram just out of habit, like while I'm working, it just shuts it off. You can get through it, but it makes it kind of a pain in the butt as opposed to Apple's one. So limit your screen time, live in rhythm with nature, and just watch your life transform. And, there's a growing community of people doing this. So in terms of this light revolution, you're going to want to look back 20 years from now and be telling your grandkids that you were one of the early adopters in the light revolution, like me and Mark. Like, this is not something that's just going to go away. Like, everybody's going to know about this. So you're going to look back and say, what year? You're going to look back fondly and always remember what year did you start getting your circadian rhythm in order? Because that'll be the year that you started feeling like a whole new person. You started feeling like a kid again. You started feeling like a human again. So those would be my parting words, I guess.
Definitely. And I like that. It's time to start to feel human.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way of putting that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jeff Gibson. Brother, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Hang around when we finish recording and we'll finish our conversation. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay blessed. Much love. We'll see you in the next one.
All right. Thank you all.